Hey Rick, this is Raul, man. I'm out here on Marengo Street out here in Los Angeles, and this is the site of the old General Hospital. You can see it back there. See that old building, and the newer one is up over here. LAC Medical Center. They changed the name to Los Angeles General Medical Center. I don't know why they did that. I think LAC is fine. But the reason I'm shooting this, I'm out here. I was doing a little recycling here on the freeway, and this is where Julio González brought his dad to pick up my tia Josefina back on October 16, 1981, to pick her up from the hospital. She was visiting Norma González, Julio's sister, who went by the name Vicky because my tia would call her mi virgen, my virgin, and it evolved into Vicky, so because I got that from Teresa, my cousin. She told me that recently, that that's Vicky's not her birth name, it's Norma, but she had been in a car accident before, before Julio's accident, and so it was like a week before, and she was in the hospital. She did a rollover up on Angeles Crest Highway. I mean, she could have got killed on that violent crash. She was with, I believe, her boyfriend. And well, the reason I bring this up is that, see, here's a McDonald's right here across the street, and fate was working against Julio that day, man, because there were so many opportunities, that Julio didn't have to be here, that he could have been safely at work and then gone home. The first situation was where, I can't recall how this happened, but Letty found out that my tia needed to go home because, Vicky didn't want her to go home because it's a dreadful place. I mean, I heard people would die in the lobby, and it's just a horrible place, this whole hospital, And ironically, there was a TV show called General Hospital, which Julio was a fanatic about. Luke and Laura, I don't know if you know about, well, you weren't even born yet. Oh yeah, you were, well, wait a minute, you were 9 years old when that came out. 1980, 81, you were born in 73. But this show was it was like a phenomenon. Everybody was watching. It's a soap opera. And, Julio would be at work and he'd call Isabel Donna Solis, Isabel Donna, Donna by the song by Richie Valens, Isabel Solis. He'd call her and say, hey, what happened with Luke and Laura today, from work? Because he was working. He couldn't see the episode, right? So ironically, all this, got tied in together in a weird way, So what happened was, Letty found out that my tia needed a ride home. So somehow Julio found out. This is a mystery about this. Julio found out that Letty and Steve Padilla, her husband, were going to go pick up my tia at the hospital. And Julio, adored his mommy, and he called Letty and she says, listen, man, I'm going to pick her up. That's my mom. That's how Julio was, very, very proud of her, So then Letty said, are you sure? Well, we'll go pick her up right now, man, and because Letty told me about that part, He goes, yeah, he called me, and so what happened? That's one thing that could have prevented Julio's accident. So then, the second one was where, when he asked Juan if he wanted to come with him to the hospital, which was interesting because they had a problem that week. Because Julio got in an argument with Mona González, Santos' wife, and because Julio was blaming her for the accident, and because I believe Vicky was high, and her boyfriend, they were probably smoking grass or whatever they were doing. And, they got a big altercation, and then Juan threw Julio out, And then Julio was kind of floundering for a week out, he was stayed at a friend's house. And then he'd come by and say hi to Donna, just visit. But Juan didn't want him to stay over because he was concerned about, Julio going off and them getting in an argument, and she going off on him, and vice versa and all that. So by Thursday, Julio was back at home and everything was fine again. And then that's when that happened on Friday, October 16th, 1981. Julio asked his dad, hey, you want to come with me? I'm paraphrasing. I wasn't there now. And she said, sure, man, I'll go with you. So they got in his truck, in Juan's truck, and I believe it was a Ford. It was kind of like my dad. My dad had a Silverado Chevy, but Juan had a Ford. I forgot the name, the make. But interestingly, when they were on their way, they were making a right onto, they were about to make a right onto San Fernando Road from Paxton. And then Santos González was across the street gassing up, and Julio saw him and he shouted out at him, "Hey, Santos, you know, hey man, we're going to the hospital." Something like that, right? And I believe I talked to Santos. He said, "Hey man, we're going to the hospital. We'll see you when we get back. Hey, right on, you know." And it was Santos waved at me, and so never saw him again, man. And so they turned and they got on the 118 and they went. They picked up my tia. Now here's another thing that happened. As they were leaving, Julio turned to his dad, because my tia told me about this. He says, "You know, Dad, would you like to go to McDonald's?" And I just want to cry, man. He says, "You want to go to McDonald's, man? Get a burger, you know?" Because Julio loved that all-American meal like I loved it. Hamburger, French fries. A simple hamburger, French fries, and a little Coke, man. Now, Julio loved that. But Juan said, no, man, let's just go home. And what do you know? Gets on the freeway, and you know, this bastard, you know, Julio's on the 5, and this bastard Joseph Patrick Settle, he's the guy that killed Julio, was racing with some other guy. I don't know when this race began, but he was on the 405 coming from Woodland Hills with a couple of his friends. This guy was an Italian dude. So Julio's merging onto the 118, and this bastard's merging onto the 118 from the 405, Julio from the 5. And then he caught up to Julio real fast because this bastard was jetty, man. He had a Barracuda. And the guy he was racing against had he had either had a Porsche or he had a Corvette, a white. All they knew was a white vehicle. We never heard from that guy. He never, you know, came forward. And so then he lost control as they were racing. He plowed into Julio, and Julio was just the equivalent of maybe 2 blocks away from getting off the freeway, man. And he was killed. You know, and that just haunts me. The fact that, you know, number one, they blamed Vicky because she wouldn't let my tia go home. Had she said, but I could see how lonely she was in that hospital. Because nobody, you know, everybody's at work, and it's a dreadful place, and my tia's there to comfort her and be with her. And then the second one was with Juan. You could say, well, it was Juan's fault. Why didn't he just say, yeah, son, let's get a burger? Because he must have been starving, because this whole thing was that my tia would tell Vicky, look, honey, I got to go home because your dad's going to be furious without that hot meal on the plate. You know, when he gets home, and, you know, so I would have thought that Juan would say, the hell with that, man. I want a quarter pounder, Julio, man, you know. And, but, you know, it was not to be, man. So I just thought I'd run that by you. But there it is, the General Hospital. Luke and Laura, 1970s to 1980, early 80s, it wrapped up, you know. And there's the LAC USC. You can see just a little bit of it by that freeway sign over there. You can see the facade up in the front. It's a great hospital, but they renamed it Los Angeles General Medical Center in homage to the General Hospital, I guess. You know, it sounds similar, right? And here's the McDonald's where, you know, Julio could have been there enjoying his burger, and he'd be with us today, man. You take care. Bye.